Hey guys, how's it going? Today I wanted to talk about the importance of knowing beginner mechanics. Well, why would you say that? Well, it actually depends really on what country you're in. If you don't really need a car, well, then there's no point in knowing beginner mechanics except if you want to be a mechanic. But being in Los Angeles, I have found out that you need a car a lot. And except if you are always with new cars or leases, I think knowing just at least the basics is super important. Sounds kind of dumb, like subject to talk about, but I've just seen so many people get either screwed over by a mechanic because they basically don't know even the little basics of anything that has to do with mechanics, and they get quoted way more than what they should be quoted. Or I've also seen people who just don't know how to change a tire or check their oil and blow their engine, because really the number one killer of a car is not having enough oil in your car, not having enough water and overheating your car, and maybe not having enough oil in other places, such as the transmission oil, or even just not having enough brake fluid could impair the fact that your car will not brake the right way. And that can actually happen on new cars, old cars, all kinds of cars. If you have a little bit of a leak, unfortunately, it's kind of like the silent killer. It's not because it's new that it can't leak, and if the leak is minor, the car will work fine for a long time until it doesn't work, and then you blow basically the head gasket of the engine, or whatever it is, the master cylinder, and then you basically have blown your engine. So I just say, not telling anybody to be a mechanic, but I'm just saying that it should be a requirement in some way with your driver's license to actually know at least how to change a tire, change your oil, because it's super important at least to do that every 3,000-4,000 miles, depending on what kind of oil you have, or what kind of car, or what kind of oil you've put in your car. And just be able to check your levels once in a while, because it's a tool, and it's like everything. It needs to be checked. Everything needs to be checked. You need to take care of it, otherwise it won't be able to take care of you. And you have to also be able to change brake pads, the thermostat, probably every 6 months or something like that, because the thing is that those thermostats are what's basically letting the water go through the radiator and all that stuff. And it's important to change them, because they fail. They basically fail after a couple of months of use. They tend to fail, more or less. They don't open the right way, and then your engine starts heating up a little bit too much. And the engine needs heat. It needs actually a lot of heat, but it doesn't need too much heat. It needs to be just right. So it's really important to be able to know when to change the thermostat and other stuff, because if you don't, well, then you could really ruin your car, because like I said, it needs either a certain amount of heat or a certain amount of cold. And if it's not that way, well, then the car will break. So it's really up to you. And if you want to just get a lease car and change it every 3 years, there's a good chance that you will actually be able to not have any problems. But even then, if you don't change your brake pads once in a while, or you could get a nail in one of your tires, especially in all these sports cars and stuff. The tires are super duper expensive, but they're not very durable, and in city life they actually don't really have much sense, because you're not racing. So sometimes I think it's kind of funny that each tire could be like $250 or $500 depending on your car, and they're super non-durable. in some way, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what I feel about cars, and it's definitely important to just know. I have a very old car in my own way, and the thing is that thanks to that, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise in some way. Is I've been able to see how my mechanic changes a lot of things, and I've been able to help him and stuff like that. So now I'm not scared to actually get under the hood, and it's all mechanical. And being also really good at like computers and hardware and all that stuff, I've noticed that it's not that bad. It's not because you connect something slightly off that your car is going to blow up right away. You're going to see, of course, that it's not going to be functioning right, and you might get frustrated and stuff like that. But unless you really did something silly, there's really no way for the car to just break just for having put apart badly, because you would notice that you wouldn't be able to drive it properly right away. And if you do, then right away when something is wrong, you just switch it off and you should be fine. Another silent killer that I haven't talked about too much is basically the timing belt. It has to be changed. At least on my car, I try to do it every 65,000 miles. I'm sure some cars have different specifications, but that's something that you really have to take into account, because if you don't change it, and let's say it just snaps on you while you're driving it, okay, the first time it'll snap, it'll be okay, but then the moment you start cranking your car and you try to turn it on while the belt is basically snapped in two, well, here you go. Now the engine has just been destroyed, pretty much, and you're gonna have to go rebuild the head gasket and the head master cylinders and all that stuff, because everything's gonna be wrong on your freaking engine. So you see, it's funny how they try to sell us all these new cars and they try to make us believe in all these things, yet like the cars can really literally break so fast, and it's just kind of overwhelming sometimes, because we're so reliant on all of these things, and then they break within just 1 second. It's kind of like the body, and sometimes we take it for granted, and then literally it can just break with one misstep. And I guess that's how life is. Which also the problem is that sometimes older cars are much more reliable because they don't have all these electronic parts. Because the problem is that when it's mechanical, car mechanic, it's easy to like have mechanical stuff working all in conjunction, but then when you put computerized chips and stuff like that in it, it tends to not work the same way, because one chip might be faulty but everything mechanically is actually okay, and because that chip faults, then it doesn't give enough power to all the other parts, and then everything goes kind of haywire. So that's also like the tricky part, because these parts are expensive, and sometimes fixing those things are actually more difficult than fixing the mechanical parts. And that's why sometimes I kind of think, well, I wish they would give us an option to have a fully mechanical car, but with the standards of nowadays, and see if we could make something like that's more indestructible. We'd still have to change brake pads and change tires and stuff like that, and oil, etc., but at least it'd be more durable. I don't know. Anyways, have a great day and talk to you soon.